Hi, this video is about the hamstrings. They're a group of 3 muscles that start at our sit bone, run down the back of our leg to just below the knee. Their main job is the flexion of the knee, but they also assist in the extension of the hip. They're involved in everyday activities such as walking, running, climbing the stairs, and for this reason can take quite a lot of impact and are prone to injury. One of the most common things about the hamstrings, so people suffer with tight hamstrings. There are a number of reasons you could have tight hamstrings. Firstly, too much sitting. If we're in the sitting position, we're contracting the hamstring and therefore shortening the muscle. We're also sitting, because of the location on the sit bone, putting pressure on the hamstrings. If you're sitting at a desk job and then driving to and from work, that puts a lot of time in that sitting position, which could cause them to tighten. If you're otherwise active, maybe you're doing a lot of running or walking, it could be that actually simply reducing that sitting time, so standing up for your lunch, periodically walking about and stretching those hamstrings could resolve the issue. And at the end of the programme video, I will show you a simple hamstring stretch. However, for most people it's not that simple. The glutes here are responsible for hip extension. They're big powerhouse muscles, but they can also be very lazy. If you have weak glutes that aren't working, they pass on the job of hip extension down to the hamstrings. So that then creates overworked, fatigued, sore hamstrings. Sometimes, for example, in glute bridge, people say that the hamstrings are feeling that impact. Should be an activity on the glutes. It also indicates that the glutes aren't working and the hamstrings are taking too much of the strain. If the hamstrings are doing the job of the glutes, this pass the buck goes further down the leg. So then, because they're concentrating on the extension of the hip, they're not concentrating on the flexion of the knee. So the calf, the gastroc, the gastrocnemius and the soleus then take over flexion of the knee, which is not their job. So they become fatigued, as they are supposed to do the plantar flexion of the foot. So with this pass the buck down the back chain, we can end up with lower back pain, hamstring issues, knee pain, calf issues and foot issues, so such as plantar fasciitis has been associated with tight hamstrings. So what do we do about this? Well, we do need to get that glute fired up so that the glutes do their job, hamstring comes back to doing its own job and the gastroc does the footwork. However, it's not that simple. Why are your glutes not firing up? Too much sitting. If you're in that sitting position, you have tightened the hip flexors, because again, they have been working all day and they become tight and shortened. Now this shortening of the hip flexors could possibly tilt your pelvis so that it's been pulled forwards. This can create a lordotic posture, so an over curving of the lower lumbar spine, and it prevents your glutes from getting that range of motion to actually fire up, so they don't bother. It could also be that the rectus femoris from the quad is pulling this the pelvis forward. So that it could be like a tight quad, so stretching your quad may release this. When you're in an anterior tilt, your abs are also not working. So maybe the reason for tight hamstrings is due to this lordotic posture, which means the hamstrings have to fire to protect the back, so they have to work in order to protect the back. It actually might be to do with weak abs. So all sorts of reasons. So tight hip flexors, a tight quad, weak abs, the wrong position of your pelvis could be causing this posterior chain of events. the tight hamstrings in particular. So we're going to start at the front and work our way through some stretches and some exercises that may release the tightness at the front to allow our glutes to fire up at the back, and therefore hopefully allow the hamstrings to do their own job, so they're not overworked and they're not getting tightened and shortened by too much work. However, if you are sitting, you still need to reduce that sitting time in order for them not to be in that shortened position. So we're going to start off. We'll start off with a quad stretch. So we grab our hand at the front of our shin, so rather than your foot, grab the front of your shin. You can hold on, take your leg behind you, drop the weight of your leg into your arm, and then drive back with your thigh. So traditionally we've squeezed the calf and the hamstring together, but it doesn't really give you a full stretch. So you want to drop that weight and then drive the thigh back. And that's going to stretch off all your quads, but the rectus femoris, which could be pulling your pelvis forward. And obviously we will do the other side. So shin into your hand, drop your leg, weight into your hand now, and drive back with your thigh. Okay, so from here we're going to now try and stretch off our hip flexors. So coming down is what's called a running lunge. Take one foot forward and you're going to try and lean right in. Just swap the legs so you can see a bit better. And try and lean right in so you're opening up this hip flexor. So if this stretch is enough, you can stay here. Or you can lift your arms up and just leaning back slightly, looking up. And again, feeling it in here. Put your hands down to beside your foot and lean your chest into your knee. Okay, we'll swap sides. Taking leg forward, leaning in, opening up this bit in here. Okay, taking your hands up if you want to increase the stretch. Looking back and up. Taking your hands down by your foot. Leaning your chest into your knee. Okay, now coming onto your mat. So we're trying to release these hip flexors. We also have to correct the tilt of your pelvis. So one way we'll do that is we'll practice tilting our pelvis. So flattening your back into the mat and then let it go back to natural arch and then just take it a little bit beyond. Now, try not to use your legs to do this movement, try to use the inner core muscles. So imagining when you're tilting your pelvis, so you're flattening your back, there's a piece of string inside you from your pelvis up towards your ribs and you're pulling up with that. If you're not sure if you're using your core muscles or your legs, by dropping your legs out to the side, you have to use your core muscles. So really imagining that string really pulling up. Okay, now from here, we're going to lift the legs up into tabletop. Okay, and you're going to just try and toe tap. What we're doing now is we're trying to make sure these abs are working, so strengthening the abs. Okay. Come up, look at your stomach, lift your legs up, lower them down, and up. So this is now really strengthening the inner core muscles. It's also strengthening some of the hip flexors, so the psoas major. Okay, if this is too much, you could leave one foot down on tabletop and just do one leg at a time. So they will strengthen your core. So we have released the quads, so the rectus femoris. We have released the hip flexors. We're trying to work on strengthening that core. We're going to do an exercise now to fire up the glutes. So, onto all fours, so hands below shoulders, knees below hips, nice square, making sure you're not just hanging in your armpits, you're pushing through. You're going to flex your foot and you're going to drive that heel up to the sky. Try not to let your back sag, and that's going to fire up your glutes. I'll try 10 of these. Do one more. Okay, and then we'll turn around. So hands below your shoulders, knees below your hips. Flex your foot, drive the heel up towards the sky, making sure you don't sag your back. There's also, in this position, opening up these hip flexors. Okay, if from here you're feeling comfortable, you can go into a high plank and then just lift one leg up. So this is really firing up your glutes, but it's also engaging your core. As you're having to stabilise yourself using your internal core muscle in your glutes, for example. So we're going to do the other side, the full plank. Okay, lifting your leg. Okay, so release the quads and the hip flexors, done some strengthening work on our abs, fired up the glutes. I did say I would show you the hamstring stretch. If your hamstring is tight, but you're very active and you know that your glutes are fired up, for example when you're running, it could just be that you just need to do the simple release of the hamstrings because they're just getting too tight. So I'm going to show you that stretch. If your hamstrings are tight because they're overworked, it's probably more important to do all the strengthening, the release on this side and then the strengthening on the glutes. I'll show you the stretching anyway. So, you can have your leg up straight, and the one flat to the mat, bringing it back. Now, if you have tight hamstrings, you may not get to that position. So in this situation, you would wrap a band, or you could use a roll towel, anything like that, and you would hold by pulling on the band if you couldn't get your leg up this height to hold it yourself. So it might be that you can only get your leg straight to here, so this is when you would use the band to support your leg. And obviously we do both sides. Okay, so there's some information on tight hamstrings, why they could be tight. There may be other reasons, certainly if you get numbness or tingling sensation, that's worth going to see a doctor or physio. Could be other reasons, but you could try some of those exercises and see if it helps with your tight hamstrings. Thank you.